Plasmodium is a digenetic organism. It requires two hosts to complete its life cycle. One being the definitive host or the primary host is the female Anopheles mosquito. The second is the secondary host or the man. In female Anopheles mosquito, they complete their sexual reproduction and hence we call it as a primary host. While in man, we call them as secondary host because Plasmodium completes its asexual reproduction in them. Now, the entire flow chart of understanding Plasmodium life cycle goes like this. As I told, they require two hosts. One is human, the other is mosquito to complete its life cycle. Human is called intermediate host, in which asexual reproduction is seen, while mosquito is called definitive host, where you can see sexual reproduction. Now, assuming an infected mosquito comes and bites a human, there you start seeing in human asexual reproduction starts off. Now, what do you call asexual reproduction in case of sporozoans? We call it as schizogony. This word schizogony is divided into two parts, schizo and gone. Schizo means splitting, while gone means generation. So, schizogony is nothing but a splitting generation. You keep seeing a lot of cell division happening here. This schizogony starts off when an infected mosquito bites a normal human. Sporozoite passes from the saliva of the mosquito mouth and enters into the blood cell of human. When it is entering into the blood cell, we now call them as merozoite. Merozoite undergoes a lot of pathway, we will be looking into it, and then forms into male and female gametocytes. These male and female gametocyte fertilizes inside the mosquitoes, and this is why we call the mosquito as primary host. That they form into the sporogony. Now sporogony forms sporozoites again, and this time what is happening? Again it is entering into a human. So infected mosquito passes on the plasmodium to a normal man, and an infected man passes on the protozoan to the mosquito. This is how their cycle continues. So in the first section we see what happens in human. In human, there is two part of phases we see. First is exoerythrocytic schizogony, where you see pre-erythrocytic schizogony and exoerythrocytic schizogony. Now, these stages happen outside the RBC cells, while erythrocytic cycle, the word itself is signifying erythrocyte or the RBC cell, are of two types, erythrocytic schizogony and erythrocytic gametogony. Now we see each one by one. First one is pre-erythrocytic schizogony. Now when an infected mosquito bites a normal human, the entry of sporozoite happens. The sporozoite is basically spiral in nature. They are spiralar when it enters. But these quickly change its shape and become into a rounded structure. This rounded structure finds the liver cells, which we call it as hepatocyte, and these liver cells are hexagonal in nature. These liver cells, when the sporozoite enters, it starts pushing the nucleus to one side and they start dividing. So at one particular stage, you could see a lot of cells of plasmodium inside the liver. But these cells would not be having cytoplasm. They further grow and form into the cells along with cytoplasm. So they form lot of sporozoite. These sporozoites now are called as merozoite. Now these merozoite forms a little apical shaped now, and this apical shape goes and binds to the glycoprotein present on RBC cell and eventually landing up inside the RBC. Now this is how it enters into RBC and erythrocytic schizogony starts. In erythrocytic schizogony, we see that RBC cell which was affected by the sporozoite, or rather now I better call it as merozoite, has entered. Now these merozoites are called as tropozoites. Now these tropozoites starts changing its shape inside RBC as they are reproducing fast. These tropozoites consume the hemoglobin part of it. Now we know hemoglobin is in two parts. One is the iron, the heme part of it, and the other is globin, the protein part of it. These tropozoites consume the entire protein present in it and leave out the heme part, just like that. And this heme part is now called as hemozoin. And while these hemozoins are being formed, this entire shape looks like a ring. We call it as signet ring stage. Since the signet ring stage is the part when first time you see hemozoin toxin is being produced, we see that hemozoin happens to be a pyrenogen. Now this causes fever. This is the stage when the person starts shivering and starts feeling hot, fever comes, a lot of sweating. All the symptoms are seen at this stage. Now once the stage is crossing over and continuously the tropozoite is consuming the hemoglobin, it increases in number. As it increases in number and all the globin is consumed and there is nothing left for the organism to consume, it splits open, it ruptures the RBC and they come out. They come out to affect a new cell of RBC. Now this is how the cycle keeps continuing, but in between there could be a condition where erythrocytic gametogony starts off, that is production of male and female gametes. Right. So these are the stages what we see. Now one stage which I did not specify while explaining is exoerythrocytic schizogony. In this case we see a dormant form of sporozoan, not always seen. In certain forms it is just dormant until the right time is there and then it shows its effect. So this is how it takes place in case of human. Now we will be moving on and seeing what happens in mosquitoes. Just before it enters into mosquito, the sporozoites or the gametozoites formation starts happening here. So here we see that certain forms of tropozoites do not get into the cycle of or the erythrocytic cycle and start forming male gametocyte and female gametocyte. Now how is this formed? Now male gametocyte undergoes a process called as exflagellation, and during this exflagellation microgametes or the male gametes are formed, generally 6 to 8 in number. So these microgametes are ready for fertilization. Meanwhile, female gametocyte do not bring about a lot of changes. It is going to be retained in a bigger, larger shape and size so that there is extra cytoplasm for the fusion. So now the microgametes and the female gametes, here male gametes and female gametes fuse and undergoes the process called as fertilization, and zygote is formed. This zygote now forms into a ookinete, a little elongated structure. These further undergo a division to form oocyst. Now, how is this oocyst formed, or where is this oocyst formed if you want to know? Generally, the zygote gradually comes down through the alimentary canal of the mosquito and comes down in the stomach. In the stomach, there is a epidermal layer present. One layer below the epidermis, they come and rest. We would agree that they have undergone a lot of changes in human cell without any kind of break. So, here they take a break and then the oocyst is formed. Once they are well rested, an oocyst converts into a spiralar sporozoid. They again swim back to the saliva and they are present in the saliva of a female Anopheles mosquito. Now, when this female Anopheles mosquito bites, this again enters into human. This is how human cycle and mosquito cycle alternates. So is the alternation of sexual and asexual reproduction in case of Plasmodium.